Good morning, it's Jonathan Barratt with the morning debrief for Friday, September the 17th. The current time is 7:57. Okay, relatively good night last night in the Dow. Was interesting though. We had some positive number. Jobless claims were actually down by 3,000 to 450,000, which is quite positive. Also had producer wholesale prices actually rose for the second month in a row, which is gaining that momentum that we've talked about, particularly with the CPI numbers. So that was actually quite positive as well. Positive news, so obviously with Apple with their launch and iPad into America, so all that was pretty positive as well. But we didn't actually get the Dow running on as much as we would have expected it to run on, and obviously we had a little bit of profit taking. The Dow closed up 22 points, the S&P was down 0.41, and the Nasdaq was up 1.93 at 2303. In Europe, a pretty negative night. The stock 50 was down 9, FTSE was down 15, and the CAC was down 19. The DAX was also down 12. But the interesting thing, our local market actually picked up on SciComm, which was quite good. It was up 24 points at 4,653. So that was quite positive. So we might get a reasonable market today. Remember, the market was sold off quite aggressively yesterday on the back of profit taking. So we might actually see some of those gains reverse. So let's see how that unplays. Okay, now let's have a look at a few things. And I guess the most important thing is let's keep an eye on that dollar index there. Dollar index going sideways. A break through this level here probably commences the trend lower for it. Likewise, if it holds and it takes out that 82, then we've got a little bit of a low in place. But certainly when you look at the daily chart, you can see that it's sort of very mixed in what it wants to do. In fact, perhaps it even looks a little bit heavy. So if that's the case, then I'd be guided by that break to those new lows through that 81. So just be careful on that. Having a look at some of the other data, looking at crude in particular. Crude oil just going sideways. Not much we can do with crude at the moment whilst it's doing that. Pretty uneventful. But it does look like it, 71.40 on the downside. So break through that level, just be careful because that does precipitate quite a large move for crude oil. Looking at copper, a little bit of a bounce here, which I was really happy about. We did see a bit of a bounce. Copper's been trading in that range for some time, and I just saw that little bit of a tick. Momentum indicators aren't solid, but they're not giving us any clues. But obviously, I think a trip to 350 certainly on the cards, and a breakthrough that suggests that our whole theme about a shortage of 70,000 tonnes supply and demand should actually provide more incentive for that market to trade higher. So let's see how that, particularly the persuasion we're getting out of the US and those numbers we certainly got out of China. Okay, so that's it, crude and that. Talking of gold, gold went to a record high last night. It's since come off it, but look, it's still looking quite strong. Remember the old break we had there, break through that 1260 and 1265 onwards and upwards. Probably expect it to continue to trade higher from here. Probably even from here, might get that magnet through to 1300. So I think if anything there, a few people would be looking at call options. Just be careful. Make sure you don't pay too much for them. Okay, so that's on that. That's gold looking good. Silver's also looking good, as we know, 2076. So quite positive from that. We should get a lift, I feel, for our mining sector because we did get that good run in copper, also with gold and silver. So that should be quite supportive. Okay, Aussie battler under a little bit of pressure during the day, but looks like she has come back. This all looks quite positive. Let's be guided by what the US does, but we're not doing too much either way. And I think our expectations are perhaps for a bit of a movement to the top side. We are getting a little bit excited about the parity party, and I think with some of the commodities moving on, particularly some of the ones like wheat, then that could be quite positive for us all the way. Okay, let's have a look at the SPY now. 46.51 on SciComm is where it went out, and probably expectations are there. Expectations for there are basically still trying to get through that level, that resistance that we've had. That's where it pretty much is, around that 46, 4700. And if we can get through that level, then we're okay. Looking at that chart here, we are above these levels, okay, of breakout. So for all intensive purposes, if we can stay above it, then it's good. But if we break below it, then it's bad, meaning that it certainly can do that, because it can come under pressure. So let's see how that unfolds. Everything else seems to be in line. Just remember tonight's economic calendars we've got. PPI in the States. Let's go to Friday. CPI in the States. Just remember the market's looking for a 0.3 I'm actually feeling it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. That we had some positive retail sales the other day, and on the back of that, I'm feeling that this number is probably at the lower end of expectations, so probably a little bit higher. The year-on-year number is expected to drift back to by 0.1 of 1%. I actually feel that it'll be the reverse of that and come up a little bit number. So I'm actually a little bit more keen to see better numbers on the inflation side, but I still think that'll be supportive overall for the overall economy. So if anything there, I'm quite confident that things should remain relatively well bid on the inflation side. Consumer confidence, expect a little bit of uptick there with the University of Michigan confidence numbers. So I think that should all add to a positive outcome. Let's see how we go for the Dow. And let's see how we go for our markets today, which I think will be quite interesting, given that we had that rally on SciComm. So that's about it from me. Have a great day. Happy trading, and we'll certainly talk to you soon tomorrow.